From the West Coast, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the Ole Miss running Rebels traveled to Tuscaloosa and faced a very criticized Crimson Tide team, apparently. Alabama is a 7.5-point favorite at the time record. Over under set at 55.5. Fresh, go ahead. You're shaking your head already.
I mean, has anyone? Did we not watch Alabama? How terrible they've been the past 2 weeks, and someone's giving them a 7-point favorite. I mean, 3 if you're at home, but not 7. There's too much, maybe a little bit love, and we're looking at Nick Saban, who's been there forever, instead of actually looking at the product on the field, which has been downright atrocious. Um, Apparently, they had a players-only meeting. What is that? Because they all met in study hall. Um, Players-only meeting. This is they locked themselves in the locker room. Come on, you guys know what you're doing. You're Alabama. You should already have all the answers. You shouldn't have to talk to each other. It should be figured out and playing football. You go down to USF. There's been Pee Wee football teams that have had a better display offensively than what you guys did. If you played anyone else, you would have won by more. But the Bulls, it's the second year in a row they put a scare to an SEC team. And you know what happened to that team? That the last year, Florida went 6-7. You looked a lot like that Florida team from last year, where it was disarray on offense. Defense was getting run over. There's still a video of Caleb Downs getting completely trucked by a USF running back. This is not the Alabama team of old. They play with a little extra emotion against Texas in the first half, and then that second half, especially the fourth quarter, Texas destroyed them. And they have not looked anything. Even in the week one, I don't care, Middle Tennessee State, this Alabama team has not looked like an Alabama team since 2008. Maybe this is the 2009 version. This is what we're getting, the original Nick Saban Alabama version. Nothing in between that has looked like what we're seeing right now. This is not Alabama. All due respect, we wanted to give them the props, but all those recruits that they brought in, that best class in the country last year, there's a lot of disconnect. Those kids aren't performing. They're not up in the depth chart. They're not getting it done. But it really comes down to the quarterback. Is it Milroe? They named him the starter again. I think they named the starter because they need a guy who could run around and get away because the offensive line's too terrible. That's what he did versus Texas. The only reason he was able to survive and give the offensive line some sort of points because he could run. The offensive line isn't blocking anyone. They can't run the ball. They're not physical at the line of scrimmage. Their quarterbacks are running forever. Receivers aren't making plays. I don't care what you say about Jermaine Burton. He did not go make him his NFL style better by going to Alabama and leaving Georgia. Those receiver talent, they're not making plays. They're not getting separation. The running backs aren't running hard. The offensive line's not blocking anybody. They're just desperate to find a quarterback. Tommy Reese, I think, is also in over his head as the offensive coordinator. He has no idea what the heck to do. There's a picture, there's a video of him versus Texas. He's up in the press box holding his head. I think he's trying to figure out what to call or who to call or what players he has. He has no idea what's going on. Saban's not yelling at anyone. I said it after the Texas loss. And Milroe made an interception. If that was 3, 5, 6 years ago, he's lighting people up. He's pulling them off the side. He's going off on the OC. He's getting the quarterback. He's coaching them up. No, Saban walked the complete opposite direction. Didn't even acknowledge Milroe. Didn't throw his headset. Hasn't done all year. He is a different guy. Maybe he knows, and he's just, I'm not going to make a scene, but there's definitely something wrong with whatever this program is right now. It is at multiple levels. You see Lane Kiffin coming out this week talking about Kevin Steele's not actually calling the plays. Tavares, the defensive backs coach is actually calling the plays. Well, Tavares Robinson's pretty skilled. He's been coaching throughout the SEC. He played at Auburn. He has, learned under Will Muschamp, who learned under Nick Saban, all in that same system. Kevin Steele in the same. It doesn't matter who. It's the same kind of guy. But there's definitely something going on within that coaching staff, and even Saban kind of acknowledged it. We changed up our communication patterns to get in there quicker and get better messages to our players. So something's going on coaching staff-wise defensively, something's going on coaching staff offensively, and nothing is clicking right now for the Tide. This is a scary scene. The last time Alabama lost 2 games before October 1st was 2007. That was Nick Saban's first year in Tuscaloosa when they lost to Georgia and FSU in back-to-back weeks. We are on the verge of that. That could happen on Saturday. The last time Alabama had 2 losses at home was that same year, 2007. They actually had 3 that year, Georgia, LSU, and UL Monroe. They've already lost to Texas. They lost to Ole Miss. That's 2. And they got Tennessee coming. They got LSU coming. It it could start spiraling out of control real quick. There's no quarterback coming to save the day right now. We've already seen what they have. There's no receivers. There's no Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley on the team. There's no Derrick Henry in the backfield right now. They have nothing that as an elite player that they used to have in the past. They have highly recruits, but these guys are not developed and not playing at that high level. It's not just on offense. It's not just on defense. Where's Kool-Aid at? He's not shutting anybody down. I haven't seen Dallas Turner make a true play on the edge. They're not getting production from any of their superstars, any of their leaders. It's just a blind path that thinking Saban's going to save them. And that's a scary thing when you have Lane Kiffin coming in with former Alabama defensive coordinator Pete Golding. He was run out of Tuscaloosa by the fans. Nick Saban got rid of it because he couldn't shut it down. There's obviously been, respect but beef between Lane and Nick. This is a ripe opportunity for Ole Miss when they've got it done. But not the Lane Kiffin Ole Miss teams, but in the past they won back-to-back versus Alabama. They have a chance of really changing the tide of the SEC West and getting it done because Alabama has A&M coming. They have Tennessee coming. This could start spiraling out of control, but Ole Miss could be the first one to really open up the dike and to let the water start flowing through by taking them out in Bryant-Denny. This offense has been very successful. Jackson Dart's been pretty efficient with the passing game. They've had receivers catching the ball. They've been scoring a ton of points. Their defense has been playing a little better. They haven't been amazing, but they've been playing a little better just to balance out the offense. If Kayshawn Junkins can be healthy for this football game and be the lead back for the Ole Miss Rebels, they can go into Tuscaloosa and put a big W on the board and really heat up the rumors about what's going on there in Alabama and is Nick Saban going to retire? There's been rumors about that. Maybe he looks dejected, looks checked out. That could really heat those things up if this team does not show up on Saturday and take out Ole Miss because Ole Miss is hungry. They have a big opportunity in front of them. They can get this win. They become the favorites right there in the SEC West to make a run, and it really changes the landscape of everything. So how will this game go? Will Alabama show up? Will that players-only meeting motivate that entire roster to defend Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday afternoon? If not, the Lane train's coming. He's coming fast with Pete. And the two of the guys, there's nothing better in the world they would ever want to take down their former boss in his own stadium and basically put another pegs in the coffin of Nick Saban. We saw Jimbo get a win with him. We saw Kirby take him out in the national championship game. This could be the third assistant in the past, year and a half, 2 years to beat Alabama. That mystique could start evaporating. This is a big Saturday for Alabama football and a big Saturday for Ole Miss football. Paths of trajectory are at stake. Legacies are at stake on Saturday afternoon. I'm taking the Rebels. I'm taking the Rebels to walk into Tuscaloosa and win by double digits. They are going to tear it down. They are going to plant their proverbial flag in the middle of the field, and they are going to start the beginning of the end for Nick Saban here at Alabama. Ole Miss wins. The over hits. Big dub for Lane Train and the Ole Miss Rebels.
Fresh, that surprised me. A while ago, Saban talked about rat poison and about how he feeds on like the negativity. And I think that over the years, because you've been given so much respect and you've been given so much benefit of the doubt, I think you become soft. And I think that you don't have that fire in your belly as much anymore. I think Alabama's got that fire back right now. And I don't know why I got this feeling. I think they do. Ole Miss is a heck of a test. And Judkins is a heck of a running back. He was an All-American for us. He's got 44 carries on the year and only 145 yards. He's only averaging 3.3 yards a carry. That concerns me a little bit because you're gonna need him in your scenario. I think that you can't put this all on Jackson Dart's shoulders and say, "Hey kid, go out there. Here's a football. Go win me a football game in Tuscaloosa at Bryant-Denny." That might be the biggest question for me, though, is the mystique of Bryant-Denny and the 100,000, because that 100,000 people that are going to be packed into that stadium, they've watched these first 3 weeks of the season. They've seen everything Alabama's done. And with their own two eyes, they can see that this is not the same Alabama team as old. Yeah, there's great players on this Alabama team. There's going to be guys in the NFL on this Alabama team. They're still stocked with NFL talent. It's just not coming together this year. And you can talk about whether or not that's Tommy Rees issue, whether or not it's a quarterback thing. The defense has looked okay, which is what gives me hope against them. Can they consistently stay with Ole Miss? Ole Miss does have a decent wide receiving group. They don't have a great wide receiving group. Trey Harris, I like this kid a lot. 5 touchdowns on the year on only 8 catches. That tickles me. I love when a guy just I'm only going to catch touchdowns pretty much. And Jackson Dart, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, taking 5 sacks on the year. Judkins has got to be the key. If he can run all day on Alabama, if he's able to get he doesn't have to be 200 yards on the ground. He needs to get 100 yards on the ground and get two touchdowns. He needs one of those type of games. Take the pressure off of Jackson Dart. If he can, what he's not going to do is he's going to put the pressure on the Alabama players, but then he's also going to make 100,000 people quiet. And that right there is one of the worst things you could do to Alabama, because not only are those players feeling that pressure, but everyone around you, whether they're booing, whether or not they're not cheering you, all of a sudden it gets a lot tougher to win that game because you don't have the crowd behind you. Alabama fans are great. It's no knock against them. But that's hard to watch when your team starts to really struggle and you don't necessarily know what it is. You can't really put your finger on it. You ask the questions, as Saban lost his magic. This dude didn't forget how to coach. He's probably forgotten this season alone, forgotten enough about football than what me and you know combined.
Oh, no
This
doubt.
dude,
No doubt at all.
this dude knows this stuff. But for some reason, it's not gelling together like it has in years past. And that's what really bothers me. This is going to be the last time I do this, because I'm going to say this one more time. I think Alabama is a wounded animal sitting in the back of a corner. They've been backed into the corner, and everyone wants to kill them off. Ole Miss has the opportunity to kill off that animal. Either they do it or Alabama comes out swinging. Because here's what you're going to say. If Alabama comes out and beats Ole Miss in Tuscaloosa, and they're going to have to put some points up and they're going to have to look good doing it, all of a sudden they're 3-1. They got a win in the SEC. They beat a ranked Ole Miss team. And people will still excuse the Texas loss. People will be like, oh, Texas is a great team. I think they're the best team in the country right now. People excuse that loss then. All of a sudden, well, Alabama's not dead yet. Saban's still got more in it. But this is a crossroads for this program, man. This is a true crossroads game. Yes, you have 3 games after this, but you don't play another ranked team for a month. This is the moment Alabama needs. They need this win. They are desperate for this win. Ole Miss is desperate for this win. They're desperate to be the ones to knock off Alabama, because if Alabama has 2 losses, like you said, they're 2-2 in September, with a chance to go 2-3 or 3-2, whatever it is, because there's still one more week left in the month. This is a meaningful game. I'm taking Alabama. I'll take them by a field goal, because I don't know if I'll actually take Ole Miss in the points, but give me Alabama by a field goal in this game. I'll take Alabama. I'll say that the over comes in. I think both of these teams are going to score. I think you're going to see a nice little offensive explosion out of the Tide. And I think that Alabama really will have an interesting time with Jackson Dart and him trying to throw the ball over the place. But if Judkins gets going, watch out. Watch out. Game's over then.
It's funny you mentioned, we're going to wrap up. It's funny you mentioned the mystique of Bryant Denny. There was the Green Bay Packers, Lambeau Field, from the Lombardi era all the way through playoff games, the frozen tundra of Lambeau. Nobody could win there except for the Packers. Something always sort of happened. Packers made their Super Bowl run. They were, championship games. Everything was just things would happen in that stadium. Nobody could win except for the Packers. Michael Vick led an Atlanta Falcon team in there one Saturday night and beat the trash out of the Packers. And at that point, it was kind of like a glass ceiling being shattered. That mystique of no team from the South, no other team could come into Lambeau in January or February or late December and win. And it started seeing more of that more often. And now it's a stadium, but it's not the same fear and aura that it had. That could be the same experience we see on Saturday if Ole Miss takes them out. That's their third time they beat Alabama in the past 8 years. Second time in Bryant-Denny. That's the mystique of that protector starts fading away a little bit, and it just becomes it's a daunting 100,000 people, but it's not. I cannot win in that stadium mentality. It really opens the door for other teams to come in there and take more of their cracks at them too. So it's a lot riding on this Saturday afternoon's game in T-Town.
Right. Absolutely.